I want to welcome our viewers to Recovery Today that is sponsored by the Recovery Resource Center here in Salisbury. My name is Perry Gadurgis, and I'm a person in long-term recovery, which means I haven't had a drink or a drug in 40 years. I'm also a media producer and writer with two companies called Recycle Books and Resiliency Arts. And today we are going to visit with Kevin Meenan, who is the clinical director at the Hudson Health Center. And so, Kevin, welcome to our show today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Kevin, right out the bat, I'm curious, what got you into the field to be a clinical director of a treatment program of, that's treating addiction, as it were?
So I'm also a person in long-term recovery. I haven't had a drink or a drug in 10 years. Awesome. And so for me, when I was prior to determining what I wanted to be when I grew up, which is still a work in progress, I'm looking at what can I do to help people. You know, when I stopped using, when I stopped doing the things that I was doing before, there was a really big disconnect with what I was doing for a living. I was working in bars and nightclubs, and what am I going to do going forward? Because I didn't see myself being able to do that going forward. So I went back to school. I went to Warwick Community College here in Salisbury, and I started to learn about how to do chemical dependency counseling. I had some really great instructors there, and they kind of led me in a direction of working for a treatment facility here in Salisbury, an outpatient facility. Great people that I worked with there, great supervisors, great coworkers, and they just continued to embrace me and allow me to grow and determine what I wanted to do next. And my supervisor, who I still see as my supervisor today, even though I don't work with him anymore, he told me, you know what, go back to school, get a master's degree in social work. That's the direction you want to go for the direction you're headed. So I went back and I did that, you know, and everything seemed to be a whirlwind at that time. Everything was going very quickly. You know, recovery was at the center of it all, staying clean and, you know, not doing the things that I used to do. But I was staying busy by taking care of my family. I was staying busy by going to work. I was staying busy by going to school, you know, doing what I needed to do, you know, specifically for recovery. And I was kind of thrust into this, you know, full steam ahead, you know, and as we were talking off of the air, you know, before, when I got there, when I got the degree and I got the job and I was doing everything, all of a sudden life kind of smacked me in the face and said, time to grow up. You did all this, you did what you set out to do, now what? You know, and that's where I am today. You know, I graduated from this university, Salisbury University, in 2014 with a master's in social work, and I started working, continued to move my way up to being a clinical director, and now I look at myself and I say, is this enough? You know, because for me, the type of person that I am, nothing ever is. I have a great family. I have great children. I have 5 of my own children, and we foster another child now. They're all my family. You know, as far as work, I love what I do. I love the people that I work with, and I love the fact that I get to help people that are like me that need to figure out how to find what I'm finding one day at a time.
Okay, so you're reminding me that recovery really is a process, and I also threw at you this concept of a slowbriety and the way it is as a process. So what was that like for you?
Yeah,
Can you name a thing or two?
Okay, sure. So as far as slowbriety is concerned, I didn't wait for that in the beginning. You know, I couldn't. I didn't want to. I wasn't going to, and everything had to happen right now. You know, and so with the disease of addiction being an impulsive, you know, disorder, I found myself making some very impulsive decisions, and I needed people in my life to kind of say, stop, slow down, it's okay. You know, and by going back to school, I didn't get to dictate how long that was going to be, you know, because I wanted clean time, I wanted counselor, I wanted to be clinical director, and I wanted 20 years in a day, you know, and I'm not there yet, you know, and I'm still working on it. And so what I was able to learn was slow down, do what you're supposed to do. Wake up, put one pant leg on at a time, put your shoes on before you start walking out of the house, get your coffee because you need it, and do the things that you're supposed to do. And by doing that, it allows me to do the things that I get to do. I do the things I'm supposed to do, and then I do the things that I get to do. I had a conversation with a lady yesterday who happens to be in treatment, and we're having the same dialogue, and we're both, I feel, I can't say that she's benefiting, but I'm benefiting from having a conversation such as this. I talked to her about the fact that when we were kids, we couldn't wait to grow up. Now that we're grown up, what the heck are we supposed to do? Right. We thought when we were kids that we were going to have it all figured out at this point, and I'm 39 years old, almost 40, and I'm not sure, what's supposed to be next. I know what I'd like to have happen next, but I don't know if that's going to. So I had to buckle up.
Well, you reminded me that the idea of wounded healers and the value or non-value of that, do you have anything to say about that? Like there is, as I understand in my own experience, that people in recovery are pulled towards maybe helping other people like themselves. And there's this issue of they have wounds and yet they heal and there's a recovery in there. And then you're trying to facilitate that for others.
Sure. So as a wounded healer myself, I can't dictate how other people do it, but certainly it's my job to help other people through that. There's issues of transference and countertransference, and what that means is for people who aren't aware, transference is basically what a patient or a client is looking at you and putting someone in their life, as if you're that person, right? And so how you're impacting them, but it's not you, it's someone else, but you're essentially taking on that role. For countertransference is what's that person doing to me? If I'm the wounded healer, if I'm the one that's supposed to be helping, why is it that I'm putting my stuff into that person's situation, right? So it's really important as someone who works in the field that we check our values, we check our principles, and by working a program of recovery, we get to talk to people about that on a regular basis. For me, it's really important that I meet up with my sponsor and I talk to him about things like, I don't want to sometimes. Like I'm the grown person. I have 6 kids and, I'm supposed to be dad, and sometimes I want to be lazy, and we'll have those conversations, we'll have that dialogue and that's okay. And I'm lucky enough to have a wife who understands that about me too, right? And I get to talk to her about similar stuff. I can keep my recovery and my sponsorship separate, but she wants to know too. She asks questions and she wants to know what I'm going through. And I get to pick and choose what I talk to her about because I have other people, but it's nice that she cares. It's nice that I get to ask, and so having all of that support allows me to go back to work and be a wounded healer who knows the difference between my stuff and your stuff. Okay. So I get to have all this support at home. I get to have all this support in other places where I get to do the things that I want to do and have to do, and then I get to come to work and try to find someone else's process for them. And I don't get to dictate the outcome of that process. I only get to be a helping hand in the process.
It just reminded me, I'm going off script here. I just read on Facebook a friend of mine out of Philly who talked about the difference between, in the helping field, just that. Are you helping or are you serving? Do you have any thoughts on that as a counselor, as a treatment program that you oversee with the clinical parts, is there really a difference between you're helping somebody versus serving somebody?
Okay, so I would love to be able to say that it's service because then I can qualify it as my service work and I'm done. But yeah, I think we're serving a greater purpose, right? Okay. So just the other day I was doing a group on purpose, right? We were talking about what what life's meaning is and what life's purpose is and how do we get there. And in a room of, me in addition to 45 other people, what does purpose look like for you? And we talked about happiness. If I say I'm happy, that doesn't probably mean what it means for you. Sure. And so I get to help, I get to serve, I get to process what happiness looks like for you, not what it looks like for me. Because if a white picket fence is happiness for me and you never really wanted a white picket fence, then I can't say this is the only version of happiness you get.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we get to open up so many different things of what happiness might look like for somebody. In the group I'm speaking of the other day, I had 4 people raise their hand. One person said, I want to be a good dad. One person said, I want to be a good mom. One person said, I want to be a good son. And one person said, I want to be sober. And all 4 of those things meant happiness for each of those 4 people. So for me, to be able to help that person start asking those questions and then provide the service that suggests that you can get there if you follow the goals you set up for yourself, the objectives that you set up for yourself.
Okay. I appreciate you saying you're really giving our viewers a snapshot, if you will, of a group that can happen when somebody is in a treatment program like at Hudson. Can you describe what is Hudson in our community?
So
And what
Hudson
do you
Health
do?
Services, we are a residential treatment facility, but in addition to we have 48 beds and we provide inpatient and residential treatment for up to 48 persons who are seeking recovery at a time. And so when a person comes in, they typically have been subjected to a lot of different life failings, if you will, right? So society doesn't look at them as being on the top of the food chain anymore. Society is looking at this person as, oh, that's an addict. They make a choice and they do things wrong. However, if we're able to provide a service that's billable through insurance, then somebody somewhere believes it's not a choice and it's a disease, right? And we agree with that. I agree with that, I can say for myself. We're providing a service for persons with the disease of addiction to allow them to see that they are people, they are worth it. First thing that you would see if you came in today to Hudson Health Services, you would walk into our admissions department. I had the privilege of helping someone out of their car yesterday as they were walking in. The entire admissions department came out the front door and welcomed this person. Wow. And I don't get to see that every day, so for me it makes the hair on my arm stand up when I get to see that, because oh my goodness, like, we care. I know I care. Sure. But I can't force somebody else to care. So we had the admissions director, we had a behavioral health aide who comes out, and we had a CNA they all come out and they welcome this person. They help them bring their stuff inside, and they say, you matter to us. We want to get you the help that you need as soon as humanly possible, and do what's necessary to bring you to the next stage in your life. And we don't get to carry you, we get to hold out our hand and hold your hand while getting you there.
So would you say, is there 1 or 2 key points in a treatment program, what you can do with somebody in a week's time in a residential, or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks? What are sort of the key objectives that you're trying to do when they leave, and then what that follow-up might look like?
So in our program, the first day is really important, because if we didn't have those people coming out and welcoming you, you might feel this isn't the place for me, right? So, and they know that, and they not only know that, but they actually embrace that, and they say, we're going to do that for everybody that comes in our door. Okay. So there's that piece, welcoming you, allowing you to know that you made a good decision. Because, for however long it's been, this is a person who hasn't made good decisions in their life. So I'm coming in, someone's telling me I made a good decision. For me, that means a lot. If I'm walking in the door and I'm down on my luck, I need to hear that I'm doing something right today, because it's been a long time since I've done something right. Then, you get assessed, nursing assessment, counseling assessment. We take care of all of your belongings and make sure that they're clean. If they need to be clean, we'll wash them, and you can take a shower if you need to. We want to make sure that you have dignity on your ride over to where we provide treatment. So our campus is about a block and a half away. Okay. So then you're on campus and you meet behavioral health aides, you meet nursing, you meet counselors, you meet peer support. And peer support are people who are in recovery and they're not presenting to be anyone else. They work for us and they come out and they say, hey, we're here just like you. We happen to work here, but in our lives, we're working on our recovery one day at a time. And so they will embrace you as well, So there's that welcoming, that feeling of I belong here. There's that feeling of, okay, so I now have to meet with my counselor and do a treatment plan and make this official, right? So as it becomes more and more official, we are working through certain objectives. It could be learning that you have a disease. You know, some people come in and they don't realize that. You know, they have family members that tell them it's just choice.
Okay.
You know, or they have friends, or they listen to, you know, the Facebook post that says you're a slime ball, you have a choice. You know, so there's all of that in the head of someone who also understands that this is a disease and I'm coming for treatment. You know, so, and we're just gonna help you to learn about that. We're gonna help you to learn about relapse prevention. We're gonna help you to learn about coping strategies, learn about the fact that a lot of people struggle with mental illness at the same time as a substance use disorder. And so when working with mental illness and substance use disorder, we have to understand that if your number one coping skill was to use substances, we need to provide you with other options.
Now, would that be called like self-medicate? Right?
It would be
Yeah.
self-medicating, yes. So if someone is used to self-medicating, we need to help you to understand that other things work. And the only way that we're going to help you to understand that other things work is give you an opportunity to try them out. Because if you just hear it or you just read about it, employing it is something completely different. We have a lot of people that come in and they say, oh, I know this, I know this, I know this, yet I'm here for a 10th time, let's say. Okay, so let's turn this into an experience then. Let's try it out. Let's give it a shot. Let's come up here and show each other what deep breathing looks like. You know, because deep breathing, a lot of people do believe in it, but a lot of people don't believe in it. You know, so if you have somebody who can employ deep breathing and practice it when they don't need it, maybe they're willing to practice it when they do. You know, and then it becomes a coping strategy. In addition to residential, we also have housing. You know, we have 3.1, which is like halfway housing. We do so for women's and children. We have a women's and children's house. We have a,
And this is in Salisbury.
This is in Salisbury, yep. And we also have our Union House is also a women's house. We have 2 transitional houses, one for men, one for women.
Okay.
Our belief, and this is, you know, the CEO's belief and everyone else's vision that has kind of come aboard and is working with us, is that we need to provide a continuum of care. You know, and if we can provide a continuum of care, then hopefully what the research suggests that someone can find long-term recovery through that continuum and through sticking with treatment, then we can help people to get better.
So you intrigue me as we're going to be wrapping up here in a moment.
Sure.
But, so that continuum of care and the concept of long-term recovery, do you have any sense of, is there a magic number, or is there sort of a milestone or two beyond somebody really ultimately says, I do not want to drink or drug or change the way I feel anymore?
Right,
Or
so
what's that look like, or clinically? Or
to be perfectly honest, there is no magic number, right? As you know, asking the question, you know there's no magic number, there's no magic time in which, you know, there's certainly a lot of statistics out there that would suggest that you need to go to treatment X number of times in order to get here. The research suggests that longer periods of treatment indicate longer periods of recovery. So we will provide inpatient treatment, we provide residential, we can provide housing if someone's willing, right? Because willingness comes into, you know, the recovery process.
okay.
So if someone comes in and they're not willing to then go to housing, if they're not willing to then go to IOP or intensive outpatient, there's not an awful lot we can do for them after they've left our door. You know, we can give them a high five, we can give them a hug, we can give them a handshake, and we can say good luck. But if they're not willing to do what it takes to obtain long-term recovery, then we're kind of stuck.
Okay, and then how about the role then, like who sponsors this show, Recovery Resource Center, and Hudson's relationship and or your clients, your alumni? What's that look like, or what are your thoughts
So
on
the Recovery
that?
Resource Center is a great you know, place for recovering addicts in the community to go. They have a lot of different programs. Recovery Resource Center here in Salisbury, there's the Dry Dock in Cambridge provides a similar service
And
to
then
where
isn't there the Atlantic Club as
the
well?
Atlantic Club down in Berlin.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
So
just
there's a
so-
lot of places like this that, you know, unless you're keyed in or unless you're plugged in, you're not going to know that these places exist, right? So if you can go to the Recovery Resource Center, you're going to find meetings there. There's not always, but typically someone sitting at the front desk, and they can answer questions for you, you know, and there's going to be, you know, if you come in, there are people likely there that are going to want to help you. You know, you asked about service before, and, people that are going, there to go to meetings, 12-step fellowship meetings. There's people there that want to help, and there's people there that are going to say, hey, if you're a newcomer, please come in, and you're welcome here too. So as a community resource, places like this are, invaluable. We actually, from Hudson Health Services, we bring patients or clients there 3 times a week for 4 meetings.
Okay.
Just to mix things up, introduce people to what's going on in the community. You don't just get recovery in a treatment facility. There's recovery all around us, and you need to go and find it.
Okay.
It's not there looking for you. You have to go and find it.
Okay.
So.
You just reminded me again as we're wrapping up here in the next few minutes is what about the role of family in this whole dynamic or picture, as it were?
Family is a big deal. We are in the infancy stages of developing a family education program at Hudson Health Services. We're going to provide not only for family members who have clients in treatment right now, but opening up for other family members who just want to know more stuff, more information about family, the disease of addiction and how it pertains to families. We're going to be providing weekly education sessions on that at our administration building. And I can't give you a specific day of the week yet, but I do hope to get that running by August. And we'll be putting out email blasts about that as well. Because addiction runs in families. For me, there's a lot of people in my family, with addiction and alcoholism issues. Whether they understand it and they are working on it, or whether they just continue to do the same things. I can't tell you that you have a problem. I can try to help you to understand that you have a problem, and this holds true for people in the community as well as people in my home. Okay. Unless you're willing to understand that you have a disease of addiction or you have a problem with addiction, you're not likely to be willing to work on it. So there is a lot of stuff, surrounding families, with addiction, and how the family will continue to work in, basically do the same things, thinking that they're being helpful, and really sometimes, unbeknownst to themselves, putting themselves in a much deeper hole. Okay. When it comes to that addictive disease.
Yes, a real far-reaching kind of process about launching out of Hudson Center and Treatment this sort of platform, or you really have shared that you're giving them quite a bit of tools to work with and resources and opportunities of connection, which I've heard it's been said that addiction a lot of times is about disconnection, is what some folks would suggest, and that the opposite of recovery is disconnect. Mm-hmm. And so family, is so key to this support. And so I'm wondering, what do you say as viewers are watching this around some viewers, I believe they're family members of themselves, are in the throes of a relapse. And statistically, there's high rates of relapse from first time somebody gets treatment, whether they're young or older or what stage in life. So do you have anything to say to that? And I'll just add one caveat. General or Dr. Wesley Clark has said about addiction and recovery and mental health that people still with this disease need a checkup from the neck up, is a phrase he says, like after 5 years or after 10 years, like you would if you had cancer or diabetes or some other medical condition like that. Right. So what are your thoughts to that?
As far as the checkup, daily self-inventory, so it wouldn't hurt, to check in on a regular basis, more regularly than 5 or 10 years. But certainly staying connected to your resources. Early in recovery, you're going to have a significant need for resources, and that's the time where you want people to start reaching out, saying, what can I do here? What can I do here? What can I do here? Don't forget about those things as you move forward in your recovery. If you're a family member and you don't know what to do, figure out what to do. Go to an Al-Anon meeting, go to an Ar-Anon meeting, go to places that have family education. Find out what you need to do, because the last thing that an addict needs for you to do is to turn the other cheek and say, I'm done with you. You know, tough love and I'm done are two completely different things, right?
Okay.
There's a certain mentality if I'm coming into treatment today and I feel defeated and my family told me I never wish you would have been alive, because that happens sometimes, that will take you down about 10 notches, right? And recovery is about hope, you know, and treatment's about hope, recovery is about hope. If I want to get better, I need to have hope. I need to have hope instilled in me. And if there's already some hope, it can grow. If it's all gone, it makes it really hard to plant the seed and wait for it to sprout. You know, so if a family member is done with these behaviors, that's okay. It's still important that that family member shows that, okay, I love you and that's why I can't have anything to do with you right now. You know, is a big difference between I wish you weren't alive. You know, and it might sound crazy, but people might think that sometimes, but there's a difference between what you think and what comes out of your face.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so as an addict, as a recovering, you know, person, I always tell people, don't tell someone that you don't want them here anymore, you know, because they already think that way, that they don't want to be here anymore sometimes, you know, so all you're doing is helping them to see that that's exactly, yeah, you're right. I don't want to be here either, you know, so try some hope, go find it for yourself so you can maybe sprinkle some hope on somebody else.
Okay. Wow, that's a great way to kind of pull this back together as the end of the show. So I want to thank you, Kevin, for being here today. And we will list some resources, including a Recovery Resource Center, and a link for that, as well as to the Hudson Health Center. We'll also give contact information. You can watch this show, besides on PAC 14, on their YouTube channel, and we also encourage people to share this with other people and pay it forward, pass it on, as it were. And truly, what you've done for us today, Kevin, is show us that hope is real and possible, and without it, my gosh, recovery can't happen. But the reality is recovery can happen, it works, and again, we're just grateful that you came today.
Absolutely, thank you very much for having me.
Okay. I want to thank our viewers for watching another episode of Recovery Today. I'm Perry Gadurgis, your new host, and we again appreciate your interest in the subject of Recovery Today.